Wait. You still haven't answered my question. Why would I answer your question if you can't say why you were called?
I'm not getting into it.
Can you answer why you were called?
I'm telling you, I'm running a dog around the vehicle.
You cannot do that. You can tell me why you were called.
I'm not giving you a law class right
What's
now.
your reason for search?
I'm not giving you a law class right now.
You can. You give me a law of cause. Yes, you can. That's profiling the racist. What is your reason for doing this?
They're being racist.
Can you tell me what's his reason for doing this?
Well,
I'm talking to you, Officer Tabber. Badge number 91. If that's even a fucking real badge.
it is. Jesus.
You have no reason to do this.
Well, we're dark. Right?
What's it?
We're dark, right?
Indicator. Guarantee.
And they're not coming next
What
to
reason
me.
for?
Or
What
my
was that?
daughter.
Put your hands back up there.
It's my seatbelt.
Welcome back, everybody. As many of you guys know, I'm a law enforcement trainer and instructor. I train and instruct military and law enforcement all over the country on various law enforcement disciplines to include constitutional law, case law, patrol tactics, use of force, advanced criminal investigations, etc. And we're going to be doing a K-9 breakdown here. And let me just start with, I'm not a K-9 handler, never been a K-9 handler, and have no desire to be a K-9 handler. With that in mind, you know, we can still talk about the case law, and we can talk about why somebody would want to utilize a K-9 and what the K-9 kind of gets us. And so I'm going to give you kind of a behind-the-scenes law enforcement case law perspective of this. And so, you know, I'm just going to explain to you the reality of what it is. So the truth being, probably if you're really anti-cop, you're not going to like the video. And if you're really pro-cop, probably also not going to like the video. You know, it is what it is. I can't please everybody. And at this point, it's clear I can't even appease one side of the aisle. So with that being said, let's kind of understand what we got here. We have a traffic stop in which a K-9 is called. The people in the car are upset, demanding the cop explain why they're there, what's going on, telling the cop you don't have a right to search their car. They're spouting all the typical stuff you would see somebody from YouTube spouting out, right? You can't search, you're racist. Basically, they're going through all the forms of grief there, you know, all at the same time. And so that's important to realize, because as we actually look and break down the nuance of this, you're going to realize how unapplicable most of the things that they're saying is being said. And again, it's no fault to them. They don't know the law, right? Too many people get their law degree from YouTube. And so with that being said, we're going to do a complete breakdown of this. So I think the first thing that we need to start and understand, and I'm just going to put this out there as the beginning. I usually don't use this as the very beginning reference, but for this is important, right? So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, and it's going to make you feel a certain kind of way, and that's fine. I just want you to realize and understand this comes straight from the Supreme Court. Okay, this comes from court case precedents. This has nothing to do with me. I didn't create these case laws. A lot of these case laws predate my existence. So with that being said, let's just understand what's happening here. So we have something called judicial review, as you can see here, Marbury versus Madison. And again, the Supreme Court established that the principle of judicial review, meaning that American courts have the power to strike down laws and statutes they find to violate the Constitution of the United States. And it was decided in 1803. Marbury is regarded as the single most important decision in American constitutional law. It established the United States Constitution as actual law, not just a statement of political principles and ideals. Furthermore, it solidified the Supreme Court's role as the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution and ensured a system of checks and balances within the United States government. And again, this enumerated power has always been found in Article 3 of the Constitution. Boom. So we got that out of the way. Again, I know it's going to make you feel some kind of way, but again, my job is just provide the reality to you. So understanding the judicial review standpoint, let's go into the first thing that I think it's important that we talk about, and that's what's called reasonable articulable suspicion for the stop. Because we know, according to case law precedents, in order to make a stop on a motor vehicle, you have to have what's called RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion of a crime, and that's held by everything from the state level to the circuit level to the United States Supreme Court, as can be found in United States v. Cortez in 1981. Meaning, an officer needs what's called reasonable articulable suspicion to conduct a traffic stop. A lot of people have this false understanding that an officer needs probable cause to stop a vehicle. According to the Supreme Court, it's reasonable articulable suspicion. The next thing we have to understand and realize is when we're talking about canines, we're talking about what's happening, we have to realize that the venue in place. So the first thing that I would kind of incorporate here would be Rodriguez versus United States of America, 2015. As you can see on your screen, the Supreme Court has further clarified that during a routine traffic stop, law enforcement may not extend the stop's duration solely for the purpose of conducting a canine sniff without reasonable articulable suspicion. Meaning, if a traffic stop is completed, the officer does not have reasonable suspicion, of criminal activity. Law enforcement cannot prolong the stop to wait for the arrival of a canine unit. Okay, that's super important. So they can't prolong the stop to conduct a free air, open air sniff. So if an officer is conducting a traffic stop and a canine is not already on scene, what would be some ways that he could gain what's called a reasonable articulable suspicion? Glad you asked. We have a case law precedence on that, and that comes here. United States versus Kazamikeo. I don't know how to pronounce this. It's here on your screen. 10th Circuit, comes from the state of Oklahoma. The trooper that stopped the vehicle had these elements of reasonable articulable suspicion that he used to stop a car and prolong the stop for an hour before a canine unit could arrive. So number one, the use of air fresheners to mask the odor of illegal substances from an officer or canine. So air fresheners. 2, possession of multiple cell phones. 3, he said the driver was overly nervous, gripping the steering wheel, cracked voice, trembling hands. 4, inconsistent, vague, and implausible travel plans. And then 5, provided inconsistent and contradictory statements. That's what he used to prolong the traffic stop for an hour. Now, it's important to realize, are any of these things singularly a crime? No. When we combine them together, are they a crime? No. But it still gave the officer, according to the 10th Circuit, reasonable articulable suspicion to prolong the stop. Again, like it or not, that's the reality of where we find ourselves. The next thing that I think is really important that we understand is a case law called Illinois versus Cabela's, 2005. The Supreme Court held that the police could walk a trained drug detection dog around a car that's been stopped constitutionally while the officer who stopped the car was running a license, registration, warrant check on the stopped vehicle and its driver, even if the initial infraction is unrelated to drug offenses, right? So we know with Wren versus USA, pretextual stops are permissible. Well, that's pretty much what it's saying here. United States Supreme Court held that a free air, open air sniff of a person's property by a trained detection dog does not constitute a search within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment. What does this mean, and why does it matter to us? You can say, I don't want to be searched. I don't consent to a search. That's fine. You can say that till the cows come home. It's irrelevant when we're talking about canines and we're talking about a free air, open air sniff, because the Constitution has enumerated the ability to interpret laws to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has said a free air sniff or an open air sniff does not constitute a search within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment. So it's not a search. Again, you cannot like that, and that's fine. I'm just telling you what the Supreme Court said. So yelling and screaming, you can't search my car, you can't search my car, I don't consent to a search. Cool. The Supreme Court says it's not a search, therefore it's not a search. Again, that's important to realize. Also, a canine alert does give law enforcement probable cause. Now, let's talk about that for a second, right? It does give officer probable cause. Now, why does that matter for a traffic stop? Well, the reason why it matters for a traffic stop is, again, the Supreme Court has laid out another exemption, right? Police officers who have legitimately stopped an automobile and have probable cause to believe that contraband is concealed somewhere within may conduct a warrantless search of the vehicle as thorough as a magistrate could authorize by a warrant. Carroll v. United States, Bangar versus United States v. Ross, California versus Carney, and California versus Osfiendo. Why this matters? You literally have 5 Supreme Court case precedents that say you can search a car without a warrant if you have probable cause. Again, this is part of the warrantless exception. One of the few exemptions to the written warrant requirement is probable cause when we're talking about motor vehicle. So, it's very clear why a police officer would want to run a canine around the car. The reason being is because it gives him or her the ability to then search the car without a warrant. So that is why canines are routinely used for on traffic stops. Now, what's important here is understanding kind of more nuances and understanding the why and what you need to know. Now, I really need you to understand this. There is no case law precedence that states a law enforcement officer has to explain what they're doing and the why and do court roadside for you. The officers under no obligation to do that, and they don't have to. And so I need you to understand that as a motorist and just as an everyday citizen, law enforcement is not required to do that. Now, with that being said, I love to do that, and the reason why I love to do it is a couple reasons. Number one, I'm good at it. I study law every single day. I have a degree in this. This is something that I take very seriously. I have a company dedicated to this, so I am very quick on my feet, and I can rattle this stuff off to you. So number one, I know how to. Number two, it looks great on body camera, man. If I'm sitting here telling you, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is the why, United States Supreme Court has said in this, this, and this, and this, that a law enforcement officer may do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm really asking you right now not to obstruct me in what I'm lawfully allowed to do. That could lead to an extra added charge of obstruction, and I'll lay it out for you. Because if you just don't like cops and you're just naturally a person that's going to obstruct, what am I doing? I'm literally setting you up, giving you the test, because I know you don't have the ability to follow instructions, nor are you. So that's the easiest charge in the world. Again, a lot of people are going to be upset with me about that, and that's fine. I can't appease everybody, nor is that my job to. But when I'm literally giving you the answers to the test, I'm literally explaining everything to you, and you still want to obstruct, perfect. That's going to look great on body camera. You're literally going to go to your, hopefully you hire an attorney. But especially if you get one appointed to you, like, he's going to look at this and be like, hold on. So this cop literally explained Supreme Court case precedents to you. You realize in his report, there's no less than 15 Supreme Court case precedents of why he did this, and he explained it to you roadside, and you still obstructed? Man, I think you just need to take this plea, right? That's what that conversation's probably going to look like. And so me, I'm a big proponent of it. I teach it, right? I'm a big fan on explaining to you your constitutional rights, because you're going to do one of two things. You're going to either voluntarily comply with Supreme Court case precedents that you're required to, or you're just going to get an added charge, easiest obstruction charge ever. So that's kind of why I'm a big fan of reading people and explaining people their rights. But just realize, law enforcement, again, from a case law precedence, they're under no obligation to do that. The next thing we have to understand is that the odor of a narcotic or drug that a dog is trained to detect does not mean presence, right? So a lot of people get this mixed up, right? Probable cause doesn't mean 100% certain. It means more likely than not, right? So what does this mean? The best way to describe this? Well, if I make you a great Italian meal, right, or Puerto Rican dish, right, I'm making rice and beans with bacalao, like, horizon habichuelas, bacalao, like I'm going all the way in empanadas, like I'm cooking an authentic Puerto Rican meal for you, for example, and I'm spending hours slaving away. Boom, I make this great, amazing meal, and then I take all the elements of that meal and I put it in my car and I drive away. And then you show up 30 minutes later. As soon as you open the door to my house, are you going to smell this amazing meal that I prepared? Yeah, the smell is still going to be there. So the Supreme Court has said that smell gives you probable cause to believe that delicious Puerto Rican meal is in the home, right? And that makes sense, right? You can smell it. You know it was here. Now you can't see it, but you have probable cause, according to the Supreme Court, to believe that that meal is within the home. It's the same thing for this when it comes to drugs, when it comes to a trained canine, right? The canine can't tell you if it's present, but what it can tell you is, if the dog's trained, the odor of that narcotic is here. I can smell the odor. So that would give you probable cause. So again, a lot of people get hemmed up by it. And a lot of people kind of get upset by it, and they're like, "Hey, well, I don't have drugs in the car." Well, I'm not saying that you do. I'm not saying for 100% you do. What I'm saying is I have probable cause to believe because of case law. Case law says I have probable cause to believe, and based upon the probable cause, I have these exemptions, according to the Supreme Court, to do as thorough of a search as if I had a warrant signed by a magistrate. Again, and there's 5 different Supreme Court case precedents that say that. So again, that's something super important to remember, because a lot of people, they don't understand that, and they get mad, like, hey, I don't have weed in my car. Well, I'm not saying that you do. Like, between me and you, I'm not saying that you do, right? I just want you to know regardless, you're telling me that because I get people all the time that want to, well, cop searched my car because he said he smelled weed or a dog smelled weed. You know, and I tell these people, I'm not saying it's there. I wasn't there. I don't know. But odor alone does give probable cause, and this is the why. And so usually when I do that kind of thought, when I do that thought experiment with you guys, again, I don't care if you agree with it or not. I'm just explaining the rationale behind it. So again, probable cause does not mean 100% certain. So all this in mind, take this information for what it is. Be sure that you understand that, and hopefully this helps you better understand these encounters and better understand what your rights are in particular. So I think that's important. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And as always, guys, also tell me if you have any questions. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Obviously, I want to know what you guys think. Tell me what you think. And as always, guys, long live the Republic.